Thank you for giving me a chance to share with you a beautiful story that I read in, I think, Hamodia newspaper, and I'm trying to remember the name of the author. It was a woman who writes very well. I don't remember the name, but the story is a beautiful story. There was once a chazan whose name was Chazan Levi, and you should know, a chazan whose name is Levi is a very good sign, and I'll tell you why. Who knows why? Leviim sang Shira in the Beit HaMikdash, and I'm sure they were trained with voice lessons, how to sing magnificent. And I'm sure in the Beit HaMikdash there was many klei shir, many musical instruments that were carried into the Beit HaMikdash when the Leviim sang Shira every day. They did not leave the musical instruments in the Beit HaMikdash in the open, just like we don't leave a piano in the synagogue. Only the Reformed conservative do that, maybe, if they want to imitate the Goyim who do that. But in the Beit HaMikdash there were beautiful musical instruments, there was a lot of singing, and someone told me if you heard the Leviim sing, it melted your heart, and from now on you would only want to serve Hashem, you wouldn't want to serve yourself. Some people, they're not so sure. Who should I serve? Should I serve God or should I serve myself? So if they're not sure, they sometimes just serve themselves. How do they serve themselves? By doing whatever they want to do instead of doing what Borei Olam wants them to do. So it turns out, the story goes that there was this amazing, remarkable chazan who had a beautiful reputation. People really enjoyed his passionate chazanut, and I'm not a professional chazan, but I've seen some, and they really know how to raise their voice very loud. And this man loved his career, and he even after a while picked up an ego. In other words, when he started, he was probably L'Shem Shamayim, I want to sing to God, beautiful shirot, songs, v'tishbachot, and praises, and halil v'zimra, in songs of joy, and songs of happiness. But after a while, I think he's saying also because he liked all the attention he was getting from people. And it feels good sometimes, Some people are shy. They don't even want to say a pasuk of Shema aloud. But other people, they're not shy. They'll sing all day. You give them a microphone, they'll sing in front of the whole chuppah. They're not embarrassed. But it turns out, this chazan was annoyed how sometimes there were people sitting next to him in shul who were off key. And when he would be singing his melody and chanting a beautiful tune, they were off key, and it used to make him angry. He would think to himself, who invited them to sing? They don't even know the tune. But Hashem likes that. Hashem likes when we all sing together, even if we're a little off key, because at the end of the day, together, there's a beautiful harmony. This man used to look at these two guys, and he used to think to himself, the Tehillim Zuggers. That was a name meaning Zugger means sayers. The Tehillim sayers, that's what he used to call them. He didn't even know their name. He said, these Tehillims, and he's thinking in his mind, these Tehillim Zuggers, they're here again to make me get confused with the notes, the musical tune. What are they singing for? Needless to say, that was not a respectful way of thinking of your fellow Jew, but that's what he thought. It turns out, he was singing with his beautiful white yarmulke and his magnificent white robe, and he would sing all types of tunes, different holidays, different tunes, and every time he sang it was a production. Eventually the shul, the synagogue where he worked as chazan, decided to have a meeting and hire a different chazan instead of him. He didn't know that. So when he came to the meeting, he sees some of the official members, board members of the shul. Every shul has like a group that built the shul. They get the honor of calling the shots in the shul, and they decide which rabbi to hire and how much he should get paid and what else should the shul do. Different shuls offer different services to the community. Some shuls even have a beautiful program for the children. Some of them have classes for men, women, teenagers. And when he came into the meeting, he even had his robe and his beautiful kippah somehow, in his hand, whatever. Yes, Chazan, how are you? And he greets everybody with his melodious voice. And he noticed that there was a bit of seriousness to the meeting. So the new president introduced himself as, hi, yes, the board voted me as the new president. Just like we voted a new president of the United States, some shuls vote who's the president. He gets to be the leader of the shul for a few years, and we see what can he do when he's president. A good president is someone who can raise funds for a shul. Someone who can get more people to be members of the shul, and then they can use the money to do more things, build maybe a nicer building, renovate it. So the man introduced himself, and he shook the Chazan's hand, and he said to the Chazan, we want to thank you for all these years of devotion and dedication to the synagogue. Yes, and the Chazan's wondering, okay, I bet he's going to give me a raise. He's probably going to give me a raise after all these years. I finally get a nice raise. Maybe he's going to give me a free vacation somewhere, maybe Barcelona, Spain or something. Yes. And the president says, and we discussed with the younger new members of the synagogue that we're looking for a younger type of chazan, somebody who can relate to the people, because, you're already older, he's just about 75 years old, and they want someone who they can relate to more. There's a big generation gap, different culture, the way you think, and the chazan's like, what? And they said, well, we decided to hire this man, Yehuda Cooperman, instead. What? Yes, we're going to give you severance pay because that's the rule, that's the law in the United States, I think, maybe other countries as well, that if someone worked for you for many years and now you just want to fire him or like force him to retire, you have to give him severance pay. Severance pay means, let's say he got paid $2,000 a month. So let's say over the year, so he worked 23 years, so now you have to give him 23 checks of $2,000. In other words, you have to give him a month's pay for every year he worked for you. That's called severance pay. It's a law. In other words, let's say someone worked for a company 10 years, they tell him we don't need you anymore, he could take the company to court and say, you fired me for no reason, give me severance pay. And they will be required to say, okay, you worked 10 years, so we're going to pay you for 10 months now. And the reason this is a law is because now that the person doesn't have a job, what's he going to do to himself? So it's courtesy. The guy worked for you, pay for him at least a month for each year he worked till he could find himself better employment, so he's not just stuck taking money from the government saying, please help me, I need welfare, I need food stamps. So anyway, the Chazan couldn't believe his ears. He says, have you heard my music lately? I just prepared beautiful songs. Should I sing it to you? And they said, no, it's okay. And he said, no, but you don't understand. And the Chazan explained to them that ever since his wife had died 8 years ago, he puts all his energy into Chazanut, and all his time into it, and all his practicing to perfection in rehearsals. And you can't just tell me to leave like that. How embarrassing. I wanted to retire in style. I even wanted to be a Chazan for another 10 years, if I live that long. They said, we're sorry, but we're going to recommend you that if anyone wants to learn Chazanut, you could be a teacher and you could make, an income that way. You could train new Chazanim and get your salary that way. The Chazan could not believe it. He felt as if the world just had an earthquake and he was in the center of it. He felt himself want to collapse. Such chutzpah. As he walked out of the meeting, he took his white kippah and his robe and he threw it into one of the cubbies in the back of the shul where the talit bags go, and he stormed out of there so offended. This is the reward they give me after dedicating so many years as the senior cantor in the synagogue. Can't believe the nerve. At least they could have done is let us share weeks. I would be chazan one week and he would be chazan the next week. So at least this way my pride would not be insulted. Now you can imagine that this chazan had a big ego. An ego is when a person is very proud of himself. It's good to be proud of yourself, but not too proud. When a person is too proud, that's like putting too much pepper on your eggs. It doesn't taste good. You know, a little pepper is good. Too much ain't good. So a little pride, to be proud of yourself and say, hey, I'm a pretty good person, that's good. But when you think, I am the best person, I am the greatest person, and there is nobody that compares to me, that's already an ego. And an ego is a bad thing. Who's the famous person in Chumash who had a big ego and he ended up getting swallowed in the earth? To humble him, Korach. Korach was one of the richest men because Yosef HaTzadik had a tremendous wealth because there was a big hunger in the world and he charged money for food and he literally gathered all the money, gold, silver, dollars, all the wealth in the world, brought it to Mitzrayim, and then Yosef took this money and he hid it in different places. And Korach was one of the three people that found one of the treasures. I think Korach found one, and someone I think told me Haman found another one, but I don't think so. I don't know if that's could be a machloket. And I heard the other one was found by Antoninus, if I'm not mistaken. Antoninus. And the third one's going to be discovered when Mashiach comes. And I hope I'm the one who discovers it. Now, as I was saying, so Korach was so wealthy that he started thinking of himself as the most powerful person. I could buy anything I want with my money. I could buy servants and I could build. And his ego became so inflated that he decided to take on Moshe Rabbeinu. That, hey, why should you be the leader? Maybe it's time for a new president, like me. And what a disaster. Korach was a big Talmid Chacham. Korach, before he had this big ego, he was one of the people that held on to the Aron Kodesh when they traveled. You don't get that honor unless you're a very great Talmid Chacham. But his Gavat Adam Tashpilenu, it made him fall down. Anyway, Moshe was the most humble and Korach was the most arrogant. Opposites. And Hashem defended the humble by punishing the arrogant. It turns out, getting back to our story, the Chazan had a big ego and he was so disgusted. What could the shul do? I understand where they're coming from. Sometimes they have to tell someone to retire. Listen, sometimes yeshivot do it too. I'm not saying it's the best thing, but sometimes they tell a Rabbi that, that he's older and it's time to get a new Rabbi. And they hire a younger Rabbi. I'm sure it's a very painful day. I know people like that were excellent Rebbeim for many years, and after a while the school gave them a pink slip. And the slip was, when you get a pink slip, it usually means you're fired, by the way. If you work for an employee and it gives you a pink slip, I always thought a pink slip is a message from the secretary. I found out that no, there's an official color of a paper that's firing someone. It's called the pink slip. That's what I heard. I was only fired once from a job, so I don't remember if it was pink or blue. But anyway, they fired me because I was too religious for the school. They wanted someone not so religious. Okay, thank you. After 120, make sure to say Hashem, tell Hashem I was very religious. So anyway, their loss and my loss because they paid well. But anyway, the bottom line was like this. The Chazan left, and now life seemed so sour. When he sang, life had a certain sweetness. But now, as he lived alone, how many times can his Einiklach visit him to make him happy? Children are busy. They don't have the patience to necessarily or appreciation to appreciate their grandpa and visit him and encourage him and comfort him. And the life was looking very gloomy for him. They say I should teach people Chazanut. That's what they turned me into, a teacher? I was a performer.